Okay. You can figure out who I have by how he's acting. Hey, guy. Okay, so I was going to show you another horse's gait. So this is Tenny. He turns his head because he can't see so well out of the right eye. Easy. And he speeds up because he's scared. Okay. So watch how he's walking compared to that big black walking horse. Easy. So he's doing correct footfall. It's 4 beats. He just keeps flat. He just keeps flat walking, and then he keeps getting faster. Okay. So it's 4 beats. He does have overreach, just not as much. So if you watch his legs, it's about 6 inches that he's stepping over with his back feet. He doesn't have that big front end like you saw on the other horse, so he doesn't have a lot of reach with his front end, and he's not going to have a lot of pull. Those walking horses can pull themselves, right? They push with their back end and they pull with the front feet. So they're going to have more head shake and a different gait than this horse is, and you can see he's shaped totally different. So as we speed him up a little, if he speeds up a little without getting scared, there you go. So he does more of like a racking gait. You can call it a saddle gait, you can call it a single foot, you can call it an amble. People like to call it many different things just to confuse everybody. Okay. The big difference between a step pace and a rack and all those things I just said, well, let me start with the pace. So when they pace, the legs on the same side, so say the right legs, the right front and the left hind come off the ground together and they land together. That's a pace. A step pace has about a second difference in there, in that both legs come off the ground together, and he's not step pacing, just so you know. I'll get to what he's doing. So both legs come off the ground together with a step pace, but the back foot lands first and then the front foot lands. That's a step pace. A rack is when the back leg comes off the ground, the front leg comes off the ground. The back leg lands, the front leg lands, okay? So that's similar. I didn't do anything to you. That's similar to like a flat walk and a running walk, isn't it? Okay, but there's no head shake in it, and the horse usually inverts its back a little bit. So you'll see he's not shaking his head very much. So let's go a little faster. So he'll pace sometimes, but other times he's usually doing a racking gait. Racking gait, or he might step pace. So you see if you can see the difference when he does different things. I think we'll have to go the other way in a minute. And you'll see he picks his knees up pretty high. So when he trips, it's usually that he doesn't see the depth of it because of that one eye. He has issues seeing depth, and so he'll occasionally stumble, but that's what it's from. His feet aren't sore, he has shoes on. But his problem with the tripping is his vision. So again, that's another reason my horses can trip, okay? So with him, his back leg comes off the ground, then the front leg comes off the ground, and the back leg lands and the front leg lands, okay? So let's go the other way. Whoa, whoa. So I'm gonna wiggle to stop him. He gets a little scared, like, what are you gonna do to me? Okay. Now listen to the footfall too. Here he's a little more pacey because he's going downhill. But his back leg is hitting the ground right before the front leg. So even though it's pacey, it's not a true hard pace. He's more like step pacing. There he might actually be pacing. So sometimes it's quicker than your eye. If you're not sure and the horse is loose, watch their back and see if their back is bouncing up and down. So there it's a little bouncy, right? When you watch his back. his back. And now as he comes up the hill, he's kind of doing you think maybe the same thing, but his back is not as bouncy. Okay, so with him, we'd like to slow him down. He's actually pretty smooth under saddle, but you got to ride him with just a little collection to get this nice gait. If you drop the reins, you're going to have bigger problems because he's fearful. But you're also going to have problems with his gait because he's going to then otherwise tend to pace. So you can tell a lot from watching these horses loose on the ground. So he tends to pace when he gets nervous or scared, so he's probably going to do that under saddle. He never ever trots. And he can canter very well over poles. And so with him, with the tripping and stumbling, I used a lot of poles just trying to get his confidence up that, hey, you can step over things. And that has helped him a lot with that. Okay, but I just wanted to show you another horse gaiting. So this spotted saddle horse, so they're like walking horses, but they're pain horses. But they are built a little bit differently, not all of them. But so the some are just like walking horses, but other spotted saddles have thicker bone, they're stockier, and they do more of what they call a saddle gait, but that's also a rack. So you could call it a saddle rack or a saddle gait. People have their opinions about what those things mean, so that's up to you. This is my website, so that's why I get to say what I want. You can make your own and say what you want. But people get confused because there's so much animation and artificial aids that have gone on that it really confuses everybody. But I'm about doing it naturally, getting it smooth. And if you get the correct footfall, it really does make a big difference in the smoothness of the horse. So a rack is smoother than a step pace in the long run if that's all your horse does. So if you work on the other gaits, then they'll actually get smoother and smoother over time. All right, today I'm going to talk a little bit more about the fearful horse. Okay, there's difference with fearful horses. Some have extreme fear, some have mild fear. Some of them you can work through it, they just haven't been exposed. Some have been beaten, or they have post-traumatic stress disorder. In other words, an event happened in their life that has freaked them out and they have flashbacks from it. So the way you've been watching me fix it is this horse has issues, and I just do it over and over again, and I keep trying to find all his holes and do all these different things. Now some horses I can get to be pretty normal because, again, it was a fear-based issue that you know, the horse just didn't understand. So once they understand, they're okay with it. Then there's the ones that are beaten, and so the horse is always a little super protective of himself, but they'll trust certain people, and if people act certain ways, they'll get over and do pretty well. Then you have the post-traumatic stress ones, and those are reactive, and you try and do all these things to fix them, but you keep finding more and more holes and things that upset them more and more. And that's the hard one, because you can keep doing things over and over, but it's going to take years. It doesn't just take months to fix them, and they may never be fixed. And it's just like people with post-traumatic stress, it can come back. So you can make it better, you can teach them how to deal with it and get over it, but the emotional status of a horse is different than a person. So the horse tells them when they have a problem to run from it or fight. So if you have a fearful one, he's usually going to run unless you corner him, and then he might fight to get out of there. So with this guy, he's fearful. I don't know exactly where it came from or what happened. Could it have been when he was a baby? Sure. Could it have been when he was older? Sure. Could it have been a trailer guy? Sure. It could have been the stall cleaner. You just don't know what set him off. Or could have had, he could just be more reactive. Like some people are just anxious and have issues. So with this guy, if I jump, even though I've done it 1,000 times, I'm going to jump right now while he's falling asleep. That was pretty good. But I jumped when I took him out of his stall, and he freaked out. So I do it over and over again, and then he does pretty well with me. But each time I find new stuff. Like before, I reached up to pet him, and he flew backwards. So I did this over and over again. But you can see he wants to move a little bit, so I'm going to come at him a little bit more. I'm going to go back and forth and just keep coming at him. Okay? Now we'll do the other side. This side's blind. Right? He's like, I don't see that as well. So he's actually less spooky on this side now which is a big deal, than he is on his good side, his left side. So the things with him is his first option is run. I get scared, I run away from you, and that's how I get rid of my fear. And so we're trying to get him to face his fears. But with horses like this, you have to realize it's probably never going to completely go away. You have to work with it forever. The more you work with it, like if you work with it daily, the better. If you're working with it once a week, it's going to be really bad. It's going to go downhill, because every day that, you know, he gets 2 days off, and every 2 days he gets off, I am restarting stuff. So he's better than he was. Yes, he's much better than he was. I'm going to jump while he's sleeping. Good job. And then I'm going to pet him while I'm talking to you. And I'm not nice about it either, because that's what somebody's going to do. But he gets those 2 days off, and it's kind of like you're back a week. So if he got weeks off, you're going to be back a month. Like, it's like the training starting over. You got to reboot everything. And so if you have a horse like this, you have to be willing to do that. If you're not, then, you know, maybe find someone who is willing to take it on, or a trainer who's trying to make a name for themselves and they're trying to learn. They might take it on, because it'll actually teach them a lot if they, you know, are able to fix it or able to improve it. So, but the reason I'm talking about this is a difficult situation. And with these horses, especially when they bolt, you've seen in the other videos, he jumps forward, but he can also take off. And when his mind tells him, I'm really scared, he shuts down, and so he just wants to go. So you have to be a really good rider to ride him outside of an arena, because you don't want anything bad to happen to you or to anybody else. And so you got to be able to have that control. In the arena, you have all these walls here, so it's much safer. And everybody's seen lesson horses lose their mind and bolt, but you can stop them because they're contained. So unless you're a very good rider, you don't want to. You've seen me take him out, but you don't want to take these horses out where you have no walls, because then you have no options except running into things if they're taken off. And some horses will run 1 block and stop, and some horses will run 5 miles and stop. And so that's the dangerous part, because in those 5 miles, at least in California, we can run over hikers, bikers, children, and all sorts of things. So when you have a horse that does something like that, you have to decide, am I a good enough rider? Is he good enough? Or he's still having these episodes where he shoots forward? And if they do, then being in the arena is a better option. So I just wanted to talk to you about it, because a lot of these horses have been beaten, abused. Lots of people buy them from kill pens, and you feel bad for the horses. But what you have to know is some of them are there because they've had a fearful episode, or they're lame, or something else, and that's why they end up in those kill pens. So you have to be aware that when you get one of those horses, you know, and you ride it and it bucks, that might be why it was in the kill pen, because it was a bucker or whatever. So lots of the fearful horses end up there, but you have to be someone who really wants to work with them, somebody who really likes to do groundwork, someone who's going to give them courage, and someone who's not real scared, meek, or submissive, because these horses need someone to help them. They need love, but they first need someone to help them. So they're always going to attach themselves to a horse that's going to help protect them, and a horse that gives them comfort. So he likes to hang around with Sassy, because that's what she does for him. And he'll be friendly with the other horses, but he chooses to be with her, and that's also like she's his mother. She's not really, but she acts like his mother and friend and confident. So again, with these horses, you got to help them. But if you're too submissive and meek and too many issues on your own, it's just going to end up being a big mess. So with him, he's much better. I think he's done really well. He's come really far for the time period that he's been here. But now, again, it's time for us to teach his mom what to do, and then to see how it goes. So when you get these horses, just realize it's not just about training and fixing them. It's then about training the person. And so a lot of these horses will go to trainers, they come back and the people go, it's not fixed. And I say to the people, well, did you go there and take any lessons? No. Why? Did the trainer didn't say I had to? Well, they might not have, but that you need to learn how to handle them, because especially if you saw videos and they did well for the trainer, you need to learn how to imitate that and how to get them better. All right, and he's saying goodbye, so he's much better, but now it's time to start putting the two of them together.